Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're doing an experiment. And the reason we're doing it is because in barbecue, as with a lot of things, you can repeat the same process without ever critically examining why you do things the way you do them. For me, one of the things I realized I hadn't been examining is whether or not I should be trimming beef ribs. I've been trimming the fat and silver skin off of beef ribs for years, and today I'm going to find out if that's the right call or if you should leave them untrimmed like a lot of Texas barbecue joints do it. Now, before we get to cooking, let's talk about why you may or may not want to trim your beef ribs. Now, on brisket, we all know we leave a layer of fat on the top because that fat's going to render, it's going to protect the meat, it's going to keep it juicier, all those things. Why might I not want to do the same thing on beef ribs? I know a lot of great barbecue restaurants don't trim them at all. They just season them heavily, throw them on the smoker, get this meteorite-like bark, and it's really good stuff. Now, beef ribs and brisket are similar insofar as they're relatively tough cuts. You have to cook them for a long time in order to achieve tenderness. You want them to be juicy, you want them to be soft, you want them to be barky and smoky. All those things, there's a lot of overlap here. But there's a lot more marbling in beef ribs than there is in brisket. And because there's more marbling and because there's a bone with a membrane protecting the underside, it's my belief, or at least it has been, that you don't need to trim the top. We're going to test it, but these are some of the thoughts that go into it. Leaving the fat and silver skin on protects the top side of the beef ribs. It keeps you from burning them. You can make a really thick, crunchy bark without burning the meat underneath, and you can eat them. Trimming them off allows you to get more bark, more smoke penetration on the meat side. You get a better smoke ring. Lastly, if you leave all the fat and silver skin on, in my experience, it kind of creates a layer that separates the bark from the meat, so that when you're slicing them or when you're trying to take a bite, you get chunks of bark that come off and you don't have even bark distribution across the whole thing. Plus, with the extra marbling that beef ribs have, I don't think the fat on top is necessary, especially because the bottom side's already protected by bones, by membrane, by fat. You don't need something to be completely surrounded in fat to keep it juicy. Now, I could be totally wrong on this. That's why we're doing the experiment. But we need to talk about some of the potential downsides of trimming off the fat and silver skin so you're loaded with as much information as possible to make this decision. So potential downsides are that you could burn the meat side of your beef ribs, especially if you're cooking really hot and really fast, if you're using lots of airflow. What can happen is the bark looks awesome, and then you poke it and realize, oh no, that is crunchy, it's kind of dried out, it's not going to slice well, it's going to have that like kind of dark brown exterior surface where the meat on the very outside is dehydrated, it's become something like beef jerky. Regardless, we're going to test them out today. I'm going to cook 4 racks, so we have 2 of each, so we can get an accurate comparison. I'm going to season them the same way, cook them the same way with pecan wood, my personal favorite. I'm going to cook them on the solution offset, and the solution is, it's my pit design, and the way the airflow works in that smoker, the one directly behind me, is that the air is forced up, and then it goes across the grate. It stays at the top of the chamber, so you're kind of protecting, and you have kind of a heat shadow over all the food that you're cooking, and this allows you to use the entire grate without having to have a big hot spot where temps are just too hot. So let's get started. So in this 4-pack of beef ribs, there are 2 big ones and 2 small ones. So I'm going to trim the fat off of one of the big ones and one of the small ones and leave 2 of them completely intact. Now it's time to season. We're going to season with some of my brisket rub. If you guys are interested, you can check it out on the website, or you can use whatever kind of beef seasoning you like. And we're not going to season the underside here because it's covered by a membrane and fat. None of that seasoning is going to penetrate. Essentially, it's just a waste of seasoning. Okay, we're gonna start at 200 degrees and nice and smoky, but always with an open flame in the firebox. If your wood is smoldering, you're gonna start getting bitter tasting smoke. It's not gonna taste very good, but we want it really smoky as long as there's an open flame, about 200 degrees in the cook chamber, because we wanna start nice and slow, because if you start off too hot, you can burn things, and if you start off low and slow, you can always increase the temperature, but you can't go backwards if you've already burned something. So 200 and smoky for the first couple hours, and then probably 250 and smoky for the next hour or two, and then 275 to 285 all the way until we're finished. All right, we got those beef ribs on, and now we probably have to wait something like 8 to 10 hours before they're finished, but I don't want to wait 8 to 10 hours to eat because I'll be hungry a lot sooner than that, so I'm going to make myself a steak, and I'm going to use my Made-In carbon steel griddle to do it, and I want to thank Made-In for sponsoring today's video. If you guys are like me 2 years ago, you probably have no idea what Made-In is. Well, let me tell you, Made-In is a company that makes tremendous cookware, and they sell direct to consumer. Whereas a lot of other professional grade equipment just gets sold to restaurants and you can't really find it in regular stores. Made-In is available to the public, and it's still used in over 2,000 restaurants, has over 100,000 5-star reviews online. It's used in 3 Michelin star restaurants. Basically, it is top-notch stuff, and you don't have to sacrifice when you purchase cookware for your own home. Now, my wife and I are big fans of their non-stick cookware that gets used every single morning to make eggs. And the stainless steel cookware is phenomenal too. I've used that quite a number of times and always been really happy with the results. But today, to sear a steak, there's nothing better than this Made-In griddle. Now, cast iron is great, carbon steel is great, etc., etc. But in terms of the results that I've gotten, nothing has matched this Made-In griddle. It can get crazy, crazy hot. It's gonna retain heat well. It's gonna transfer heat extraordinarily well. And if you're after a great crust on a steak or a smash burger, or if you're trying to fry eggs or anything like that, this Made-In griddle is gonna be the ticket. The Made-In carbon steel griddle is super versatile. It's safe up to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pre-seasoned and naturally non-stick. Basically, I absolutely love this thing, and I highly recommend it. I had a buddy come over, use this thing to sear a steak, and he said it's the best sear he's ever gotten on any steak. And I have to agree with him. If I were choosing one thing to sear the perfect steak, it would be this griddle. So if you want to level up your game, not only in the backyard, but also in the kitchen, check out Made-In cookware, specifically this carbon steel griddle. If you're interested, click on the link in my description if you want to save. We're about 5.5 hours into this beef rib cook, and we want to check on a number of things. One is we want to see if anything is burning. 2, we want to see the internal temperature, because maybe the extra fat on top is going to speed the cooking process. And number 3, we're looking at color and bark formation, because we want to see if the trimming process has any effect on the bark that you can form. Let's check on these guys. We have trimmed, trimmed, untrimmed, untrimmed. So we put the big ones close to each other, the smaller ones close to each other, and we're going to see some things here. All right. This is going to be a fairly short cook, I think. Ooh, this one definitely feels more done. But it's further back in the chamber, so that could be influencing it. Let's try this. 180. 170. Okay, is that burnt? Nope. Nope, still pliable. Still pliable. Soft everywhere. Soft, soft, soft. You can see the fat is breaking here because we left that fat on. You can feel this fat starting to render well. So we're getting there. We're getting close. So we're going to swap everything because we want to make this comparison as fair as possible. Now, if I had known that these were going to be quite this far along, I might have swapped them an hour ago. But first time experiment, you do the best you can. Ooh. Hotter than hot. Okay, we're gonna let these keep cooking for the next hour, maybe two, until it's time to wrap. Regardless, I'm gonna update you. We're 9 hours in and it's time to wrap these beef ribs up. I'm gonna pull them out so you guys can see them. You can kind of compare one to the other. And then we're gonna skip ahead to tomorrow after they've finished and they've rested overnight. We're gonna give these a taste test. And we're gonna see the differences between the bark, all the flavors, all that stuff tomorrow. But take a look at these. On this side, I'm gonna have the trimmed beef ribs. On this side, I'm gonna have the untrimmed beef ribs. And you guys can judge for yourselves what you think of this cook. This is untrimmed. This is trimmed. All right, we're gonna check in tomorrow morning when those are rested and we can do a final comparison. I almost forgot, I'm gonna put this RFX wireless meat thermometer in one of these racks of ribs. I have tried probably 30, 40 times to use a wireless temperature probe like this, and it's never worked in an offset smoker because it's 1/4 inch thick steel or 3/8 inch thick steel. And if you're trying to use it wirelessly, it's just too far away. It never works properly. But with this one, it's supposed to work through 1/4 inch thick steel, through walls of the house. I used it in Utah at the ThermalWorks headquarters a couple weeks ago. This is actually a pre-production model. It worked flawlessly when I was there. I'm gonna check it out and see if it works again tonight. It's getting late, I'm tired, I'd like to watch a movie with my wife, and I can monitor the temp from my phone. If you guys want to pre-order one of these, click on the link in the description. You can go check out all the details. Highly recommend it. We'll check back tomorrow. Hey guys, it's the next day and we have our trimmed and untrimmed beef ribs here. I didn't add any tallow to this wrap. It was just straight butcher paper. So this soaked tallow that's soaked in rendered fat is just from the beef ribs, no added tallow at all. I wanted to keep this as even as possible. I didn't want to take the trimmed beef ribs and slather them in tallow and try to sell them to be better than what they are. But here they are. We're gonna slice into them. We're gonna take a look at them. We're gonna figure everything out. The untrimmed beef ribs cooked a little bit faster. Those came off a few minutes earlier, maybe 20 minutes earlier than the trimmed beef ribs. I don't know if that is related to them being untrimmed. I don't know if it's just by chance. Who knows? Let's see what the results are because that's what really matters. Okay, I'm gonna start by unwrapping the big rack of trimmed beef ribs. Let's get started. I gotta tell you guys, this all looks good. Everything is soft, nothing is burned, everything's still pliable. This is nice and juicy. No fat added to this. It just looks this good. Here we got our first trimmed beef ribs. Looking really good. Honestly, I am very, very pleased with this. The only thing that's making me unhappy is the number of flies around. These were also trimmed, and again, no tallow added. Everything is soft and pliable. This bone is a little loose. We lost a bone. Other than that, very pleased. Let's try the untrimmed. Untrimmed small beef ribs. Untrimmed also look very good. Nice and soft, juicy. Quite pleased. Oh. And then lastly, untrimmed big rack. This all feels really soft, really pliable. Everything looks really nice, but we have some bark issues here where the fat split. So here we're rending fat really well, but the fat split, so we have kind of a light spot. Is it the end of the world? Not at all, but something to consider. Now we got to slice into them, trimmed first. Let's cut one bone. So with these trimmed beef ribs, I mean, it looks really nice. Good smoke ring, nothing is burnt, it's nice and juicy. I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret that food YouTubers may or may not do. Okay, what you do is you undercook your meat, take it to 190, and then when you slice it at 180. So it's undercooked and all the liquid is flowing around, looks super juicy, looks great on camera, but that's not actually how you want to cook it because it's still going to be tough. So this is at 140 degrees serving temperature. This is exactly what you would want to actually serve. And I want to compare it how you would actually cook it and serve it rather than how you would prepare it to look good on camera. So if we heated this thing up, there'd be a lot more juice flowing, but you can see that this has still got lots of rendered fat in there. So this is a super juicy cut. It just isn't so hot that all the juice is running out of it. Really happy with this. Let's try the untrimmed brisket and do a comparison. I cook a lot of brisket. This is not brisket. This is beef ribs. The untrimmed beef ribs is what I meant to say. Let's cut off the same bone. We want this one on this side. Let's see. Ooh, juicy. This fat that we left on has rendered really well. It's see-through. It's really good. Nice and juicy, all that stuff. Very pleased with that too. So you guys have gotten a sense of what the trimmed versus untrimmed look like when you're done. This is trimmed, this is untrimmed. To me, they look pretty similar. Ultimately, it's gonna have to come down to taking a bite and tasting them, seeing what the difference is, but I'm actually quite pleased with both of these. If either one of these were served to me at a top Texas barbecue restaurant, I'd be really happy and I'd say it's money well spent. Trimmed, untrimmed. Now it's time to taste them. This bark on the outside looks like it might be just a little bit drier on the trimmed beef ribs than on the untrimmed beef ribs. We're gonna start here and move on. Here we go, trimmed beef rib number one. And that is so good. All right, took a few bites here. Flavor is tremendous, lots of smoke flavor coming through. You taste the salt, the pepper, all that stuff. Very juicy on the inside, not dry at all. There's a little bit of texture on the outside, so if you want more texture on your bark, this might be the right call. Let's try the untrimmed beef rib and see how it compares. Man, this thing looks good. All right, here we go. I thought I took a big bite, just a baby bite. Let's try it again. Man, that's good. All right. Oh. Oh. Man, that is good. Okay. I don't think I need to take any more bites. I may need to clean off my face. 1 second. That was all on my face. Wow. All right, I have a decision. The untrimmed beef ribs are superior. It's not even really all that close. The trimmed beef ribs are great. They're phenomenal. They taste awesome. I mean, if I were served that somewhere, I would think, man, great beef ribs. Nice work. These untrimmed beef ribs, the texture on the top is exactly what I want. There's no stringiness in the outside bark of the meat at all. It's juicy. It kind of retains even a little bit more moisture. Superior in every way. Now, the issue is, if your smoker doesn't render fat really well, you probably won't get a result like this. Now this pit behind me, the Solution, does a great job of rendering fat. That's one of the reasons why we designed the airflow the way that we did. But when it comes to maintaining exactly the right texture on the outside of beef ribs, you're gonna want that extra fat to protect the meat on there so you can render it and make the whole thing juicy, smoky, barky, and just packed with flavor the way beef ribs should be. Sorry guys if I'm a bit distracted. My wife is on a fly killing mission behind the camera right now. She's just like, she's got this shocker thing. So you hear when she gets one, it just goes snap. I thought bug assault was fun, but I think she's enjoying that even more. So I didn't expect to get a result like this. I thought that it'd be like, this one's a little better. Maybe this one maybe is a little better. But no, these untrimmed beef ribs are simply superior. So if your smoker renders fat really well, don't trim your beef ribs. If your smoker doesn't render fat very well, I might trim up your beef ribs. But in terms of this experiment, the difference is clear. Definitely untrimmed, superior to trimmed. So in the future, anytime I'm cooking beef ribs on an offset smoker that renders fat well, they are not getting trimmed at all. They're gonna get seasoned heavily, they're gonna go on the smoker, and we're gonna make some phenomenal food. I am actually blown away by how good this beef rib is. It's gonna change how I cook beef ribs in the future. That doesn't happen too often, so definitely a superior product. I just can't get over how good this is. So, if you guys have experience cooking beef ribs, let me know which way you do it. Do you trim off the fat on the top? Do you leave all the fat on there? Do you go kind of hybrid and trim a little bit off? Either way, I want to know what you guys think. These are my results on my smoker on a specific day with a specific pack of beef ribs. Your results might be different. I think that this is going to be the way I move forward cooking beef ribs from now on. Oh, you got that one, didn't you? You want to try this?
Yeah. Wow. That's so different.
Which do you think is better?
That one.
This one's better. It's not even close, really.
Wow.
This is better in every way.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I don't think I've ever cooked a beef rib that tastes that good.
No. Yes, got another.
Look at this. So juicy, so barky. By the way, if you guys want one of these fly zappers, I'll link it in the description. I didn't expect to get a result that's this clear. Now, you can mitigate some of those things if you're spraying every 30 minutes these trimmed beef ribs. That's how I used to do it in the past. I hope this helps you guys out the next time you make beef ribs. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time. So, you know, a lot of times I think it's the unexpected stuff that's the most interesting. Didn't expect that at all. Ta-da! Oh, I just pooped my pants on camera. Reminds me. What's that movie? Hot Rod. Have you seen Hot Rod? He's like, Sensei, is there a move that would make a grown man crap his pants and have no idea why? She's like, Rod, I won't lie to you. There is such a move. You've never seen that? The code word is whiskey. Why are you saying it that way? Why am I saying what way? Why am I saying what way? Oh, no!
Did it go in your apron?
Yep.
Another.
You did it why?
Another.